Listen carefully, because the man I'm about to tell you about didn't just defy an emperor, he humiliated him. On the day he died, he didn't cry, he didn't kneel. He threw a banquet, drank his finest wine, and made sure the man who ordered his death would never sleep peacefully again. His name was Gnaeus Domitius Corbulo, and if you don't know him, Nero certainly wished he never had. Corbulo wasn't born a rebel, he was born a soldier, a Roman general of the old school. While other men in Rome were busy buying votes and hosting orgies, Corbulo was in the mud, in the snow, in the blood. He commanded legions on the Rhine, crushed Germanic tribes before they could even form a battle line. And then when the east began to burn, he marched to Armenia and did what Rome thought impossible. He conquered it. He brought the Parthian Empire to its knees. He made Rome's eastern frontier so safe that merchants didn't need armed guards to travel the Silk Road. His soldiers didn't just respect him. They loved him. They would have marched through fire if he asked. And that was the problem. Because in Rome, a general too popular is a general too dangerous. And the emperor knew it. Nero, 20 years old, paranoid, and already drowning in the blood of his own family. He had murdered his mother. He had murdered his wife. And now, from his palace in Rome, he looked east and saw a man with an army who could take everything from him with a single whispered command. So Nero did what weak men do when they fear strength. He didn't challenge Corbulo on the battlefield. He sent a letter. A short, cowardly note ordering Corbulo to return to Rome. Alone, unarmed. Everyone knew what that letter meant. It was a death sentence written in polite language. Corbulo's officers begged him to run. They begged him to march on Rome with his legions. They begged him to do what any other man with an army would do, seize the throne. But Corbulo refused. He said he wouldn't plunge Rome into civil war just to save his own skin. He wouldn't make thousands of soldiers die for one man's pride. But he also refused to give Nero the satisfaction of seeing him broken. So he did something that no one expected. He ordered his household slaves to prepare the greatest banquet of his life. He sent invitations to his closest friends, his officers, his freedmen. He opened the cellars and brought out wine that had been aging since before Nero was born. He told his cooks to roast the finest meats. He filled the hall with music. And then, in the middle of the feast, as his guests watched with tears in their eyes, Corbulo stood up, raised his cup, and proposed a toast. Not to Rome, not to the Senate, not to the emperor, to himself. He drank to his own victories, to the rivers he had crossed, to the cities he had taken, to the men who had followed him and survived. He laughed about the coward in the palace who thought a piece of parchment could frighten a soldier. He joked that Nero was probably trembling in his bed right now, wondering if Corbulo would actually obey. Then, when the wine was gone, and the laughter had filled the room one last time, he did the final thing that would break Nero's heart forever. He ordered his servants to smash his own treasures, his gold, his silver, his statues, his art. Everything that Nero's tax collectors would have seized after his death. Corbulo looked at the broken pieces and smiled. He said, "Let the thief take nothing." Then he walked into his garden. The sun was setting over the Mediterranean. He was 60 years old, scarred from a lifetime of war, dressed in the simple white toga of a Roman citizen. His friends followed him, weeping. He told them to stop. He told them to go back inside and finish the wine. He took the sword he had carried across Germany and Armenia. He looked at it for a moment, remembering the battles it had won. Then he placed the tip against his chest, just below the ribs, the way Roman soldiers are taught. His last words weren't a prayer. They weren't a curse. They were a statement. Axios, he said, worthy, and he fell. Nero got the news the next day, and instead of relief, he felt something he had never felt before. Shame. Because Corbulo had died like a king, while Nero, the emperor, lived like a frightened child. The soldiers in the east heard the news. They didn't weep. They sharpened their swords. Within a year, Nero would be dead, abandoned by everyone, while the name of Corbulo would be whispered in barracks for centuries. History has a funny way of remembering who was truly powerful. It doesn't remember the men who signed death warrants from marble palaces. It remembers the men who looked death in the eye and laughed. If this story moved you, subscribe, because next time I'm taking you to another forgotten corner of history where a man refused to kneel. And trust me, the emperor never saw it coming.